and welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we have a really delicious recipe for you that uses up some of the leftover ingredients that we had from our Three Sisters salad a couple of weeks ago. This is going to end up being a squash and black bean soup, and as you can see here we have actually burr mixed it at the end to make it nice and smooth, but this is a great way to use up some leftovers, so let's go with our ingredients. So starting off, we've got our beans. These are already cooked but still in their liquid, a bay leaf, some pumpkin seeds or pepitas, some celery, some pimento. We're going to use garlic, shallot, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, some onion. We're going to use a can of tomatoes and some of that nice roasted squash that we had from that last recipe. So one of the nice things about this is everything's already cooked. The important parts are already cooked. So the tomato, the beans, the squash, they're already cooked. And everything's going to get sort of blended at the end, so it doesn't matter if it's really super fine. So you can see here the garlic and the shallot are both getting a bit of a rough chop. The celery we're also going to dice a little bit roughly, but you do want to make sure you're cross-cutting those fibers so that they don't get wrapped around the blade of your blender. And we're just going to make sure that those get a nice rough chop. Same with the onions. They don't need to be super small, they don't need to be super even, because they're all going to get blended together at the end. And there you can see our beautiful aromatics, and we're going to start those first. So into our pot goes a little bit of oil. Now this recipe is vegan, so we're using a good neutral oil in there. Some vegetable oil or canola oil is perfect, and in go all of our nice aromatics and the bay leaf. So we're going to start off with a little bit of salt. And just give that a nice mix to make sure it gets a nice coating of that oil. A little bit of black pepper as well. And we just want to get this so that the onions are nice and soft and a little bit wilted. We're not trying to get color on this. We're not trying to get it really super cooked down or anything. But we do want all of those nice veggies to be cooked down enough that they're translucent and wilted. So you can see the onions are still pretty firm. We're going to wait until they get down this far. They've been steaming and cooking on that heat for a little while. And you can see here the onions are nice and soft, but everything still has their shape. So it's time to start adding our other ingredients. A little steamy in there. So in goes our squash. Again, you don't have to be super gentle with it because it's going to get mixed up at the end and burr mixed together. And also in goes our beans. Now, we have already cooked these beans, and you can see here we're adding all of the water with those, or all of the liquid that we cooked it in. We stored it in that liquid, and it's all going into this soup. Now, this is one of the reasons that we're using, we started with dry beans from scratch and cooked them ourselves, and then we stored it in its liquid. If you're using canned beans and you rinse it, you may wish to add something like stock or water to this recipe. So in goes the tomatoes as well. So that's 1 can of just whole tomatoes. And you don't have to burr mix this. You don't have to blend it at the end. If you're going to leave it chunky, you may wish to use diced tomatoes instead of whole. Now we're going to add in a few little tablespoons of the apple cider vinegar, as well as the pimentos. Now, you can also add a whole sweet bell pepper to this as well. It really depends on what you like. We didn't have a bell pepper on hand, but we did have some of those nice canned pimentos, so we tossed those in just for that bell pepper flavor. So now you can see everything has come back up to temperature. Everything was pretty much already cooked except for the aromatics, which we tossed in and let them cook a little bit ahead of time. We're going to put a little bit of Tabasco sauce in there for a little bit of acid. There's a lot of round flavors in this, and a little bit of heat. And then we are going to burr mix it. So again, you can leave it chunky if you like, although you may wish to add diced tomatoes instead of whole. And we're just going to burr mix this until it is nice and smooth. So you can see here. Now there's always going to be some little bits of shell or skin from the beans, unless we run this through a sieve or a tamis or something like that, but we don't really want to do that. This is fine if it's got a little bit of texture. Those skins have a lot of flavor, and they've got some great nutrients in them as well, so we're just going to leave that all in there. And once everything's up to temperature and you've burr mixed it, this is done. This is ready to serve. So we're going to put these in this beautiful bowl. The aromas in this are fantastic. And again, it's quite a hearty, rich soup with those nice beans and squash. And it is vegan. Although we did find that garnishing with a little bit of feta cheese was lovely. But here we're garnishing it with those roasted pepitas. We're just going to toast those a little bit before we add them. And a little bit of raw red onion for a bit of a little bite, a little sharpness. And that's it. That's the whole thing. It's really, really delicious, hearty, warming soup. And it uses up some of those leftovers if you have some from that recipe we showed you a couple of weeks ago. And we really hope you'll give this one a try. It is fantastic and is definitely a crowd pleaser. If you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.